Hey everybody, we're about to kick it off, stage 2 here on Lake Okeechobee, and as you can see, it is cloudy and it's starting to rain and a cold front's coming through. Temperature is going to be a 20-degree difference in the high than it was in practice, and we're looking at 25 to 30 mile an hour north winds, but we have a trailering policy in place that allows us to trailer all over the lake so we don't have to cancel the day basically. So guys are going to be trailering this morning, going to whatever part of the lake, and we'll see. I've practiced for this and I was lucky so far that the conditions have held what they were predicted for, so hopefully what I practiced for, they'll still bite and I'll be prepared and I'll get through this deal. So wish me luck. So hard to land them in this stuff with this wind. I mean, you don't have good feel. You can't get a good hook in them because your line's bowed and wrapped around all kind of crap. I mean, it's getting the bite. Just gotta maybe let them swallow it. Aggressive bites too, they all just thumped it as soon as it went in there. So I'm confident I found something that'll eat if I can land them.
Checking in here with Gerald Spoor, Coach, 2 times in one day, 2 interviews in one day.
Yeah.
I always enjoy getting a few words of wisdom from Gerald Spoor. Tell us 32nd place on the day for you. Got to 1 2-pounder. Sounds like you lost.
Yeah, you know, I went through my area and the wind was the factor. I knew this area was good. You know, Connell was sharing it with me. I don't know if he caught his fish there or not actually, but I knew this area was good, but it was very hard to fish. The wind was blowing so bad. I was protected, but the boat positioning was key. Trying to stay straight, and if you can imagine, the boat wants to be this way, the line wants to be behind you, so you're twisted, you're out of position the whole time trying to line up on a fish, and then all the cover, the buggy whips and everything's blowing over, and I just really couldn't land them. You know, I hooked up as many times, if not more. The area actually ended up being better than what I thought, and in the last hour I lost 4 pretty good ones. One of them for sure I would give it every bit of 7 pounds, and just don't know a better way to do it than drop a 1-ounce weight on their head and put a 5-aught hook on them with 65-pound Seaguar Smackdown. You think that that's the best way to do it, but I think it took a little bit of luck. If he was a non-scoreable 114 or 115, I put it right through his nose every time. So I don't know what the deal was. I think I just had a little misfortune today. All right, everybody, we are on day 2 here at Lake Okeechobee. Man, it's really tough fishing. It's the worst I've ever seen it in Okeechobee. You know, there's a lot of guys zeroing, and about half the field caught 1 fish or less. Very tricky situation. The wind blew really, really bad the last 2 days, and that was part of it, a big part of it, because it's really hard to fish in these windy situations. Wind's going to lay down a little bit today, but the problem is it's going to switch to a due east wind, which is probably the worst wind on Okeechobee. So it doesn't take very much wind to make it bad. So not really excited about that. Even though the wind's going to be lighter, it's still going to be switching out of the east, and so it still could be an issue. We're still dealing with cold front conditions. It's 56 degrees this morning. The high today is going to be upper 60s, low 70s. When we got here, the highs were 89, so it gives you an idea how much the temperature has dropped, and these Florida bass just don't like that at all. So right now, I have a plan to fish my area thoroughly. I feel like I have a good area, and I had a lot of bites despite the conditions the other day. but I couldn't land them. It was really hard to set the hook on a fish or feel the fish with the wind blowing so bad and get a good hook set on them and get them out of the cover. So my game plan today is to go work that area over real good, and then as the wind starts to switch to the east, make a judgment call on how that's going to affect that bank, and then basically I'll move from there. If the wind's hitting that east bank, I don't have anything that's east wind protected, and then the bad thing is all the water from the north wind blowing so hard the last 2 days, so all the water on the inside stuff has been blown out, so the water's dropped like a foot and a half on that north end. So I don't know if that water's going to come back. We're going to have to feel all that stuff out. If there's no water on the inside, then I may resort to going to the Kissimmee River and trying to fish a little bit in there, and that's like plan number 2. And then the complete punt of the whole deal is if nothing else is working and I can't figure something out with that east wind, then I'm gonna move on up and fish some canal systems and just try to catch a few bass, try to get in this cut. If the score tracker's not moving very much, you know, each bass that you can put on the scales is a big deal. So whatever we got to do to make that happen. You know, I got one area in some canals where I got a lot of bites, but every fish I caught in there was a non-scoreable, but I also went through it really fast. So my last resort is to go to those canals and get around that population basically, and just hope there's a couple good ones in there to salvage the day. So we don't know what's going to happen. Very, very tough tournament. The last two tournaments we've been dealt with some very adverse conditions between muddy water, high winds, cold fronts, and so it's been a battle to get through these first couple of events, but we're maintaining a positive attitude and just going to try to persevere through it and see what happens today. So follow the score tracker and let's see who can figure it out and get through it and get into. I just want the weather's going to stabilize. So if I can get through today, the weights get zeroed and we can reset this deal, and hopefully they'll start biting as the week goes on.
Well, within the final 3 or 4 minutes of that second period, this guy right here bumped himself up above the elimination line. Gerald Sporer had 2 pounds 2 ounces to start the day, but he caught a 5.12 right before the close of that period, and so that got him into 20th place. Well, he's been bumped back once again.
Yeah, and he's in an area called Eagle Bay, and I mean that's all the chips in right there. You got to go through a lot to get back in there, and he's got it to himself. Man, it's a pretty fish. Now it's just there's many more back in there because we call these resident fish. What lives there is there. There's not no new ones coming in at all. But those kind of fish start showing up in that, it could be a good enough area to get him through this day.
So Gerald Sporer, what a crazy day it's been for him. Remember, he catches a 5.12 right at the end of the second period, but by the time things unwound, he was back on the outside looking in. Now Sporer catches a 3.10, not just inside the elimination line, but he is 18th. Avina is 19th. He's caught only 2 pounds today. Then it's Clausen in 20th, and Zach Burge is on the outside by 3 ounces in 21st place. Gerald Sporer, the latest to move in.
JT, you said it yesterday when Boy Duckett moved into that area over there in Eagle Bay. It had the potential. Now that the weather's settled down, that little place is showing out a little bit today.
We made it to the third round of competition and been struggling with what should I do. Should I go south or should I stay north? Yesterday the wind started switching out of the south, so that's going to start opening up that south end, and we're finally starting to get through this cold front that we had a few days ago. And so I'm anticipating the highs today should be around 88 degrees. So I'm anticipating that lake bite to really start turning back on. It's been a struggle, and I've gotten here fishing something that was just basically stable, and it was more of a survival place. I know it's not the kind of stuff that I'm gonna need to take me all the way through this event. So I've been battling
I said I was going to watch the score tracker yesterday and make a decision. So I watched it, and it looks like they still struggled yesterday, even though the wind switched out of the southeast. Today it's going to blow out like due south, pretty good, about 15 miles an hour. And you know, they caught them so slow yesterday that I just think I'm going to just go with an area that's still stable, and if the score tracker gets out of hand, then I may leave and start doing some stuff out in the lake. But as of right now, we're just going to go with the safe bet, and if we can somehow make it to that top 8 out of today, then we'll go in the blind tomorrow and fish the south end of the lake. So we'll see what happens, and we'll just keep an eye on that score tracker.
That's a good one. That's a big one. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, he's 2.
10 pounds, 0 ounces. For sure.
Yeah, I saw that 115. I think, come on, bro. Don't. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that recap video from Lake Okeechobee. It was a very challenging event. It was one of those ones where I didn't really know how I was going to get through it as the event was evolving, but I guess finally I've gotten enough experience on Okeechobee where I can somewhat manage those bad situations, and going to those canals in the middle of the second period on the second day of competition was a big deal. It helped me catch that 512 and then catch that 6-1. You know, so the last day or the knockout round, I spent it, as you could see, in those canal systems in that Eagle Bay area. You know, the 6-1 I caught on just the Jack Hammer Chatterbait, half-ounce Jack Hammer with a Green Pumpkin Zeko trailer. So green pumpkin on green pumpkin, one of my favorite colors to throw down in Okeechobee. And then the 512 that saved me on the second round of competition, second day of competition. I caught it on a missile D-bomb and Zematoma color. My buddy at Z's Tackle has an exclusive run for this color, so I've been flipping this all over the country. Zematoma from Z's Tackle, missile-based D-bomb. Pretty cool bait. I depend on it a lot. And another bait that I used a lot in practice was my signature swim jig from Beast Coast Fishing. This is a 7/16 ounce, and I was putting just a white trailer on a white swim jig, and I was swimming in and out of those pencil reeds, and that was a really fast way for me to cover that outside reed line. And it was swimming around, because you would come up to hay grass and then you'd have pencil reeds. I would pitch it in and out of the pencil reeds. This jig does a very good job of not getting hung up, and it's heavy enough for me to pitch it into those reeds and swim it out. And then if I want to pitch it around a corner of some hay grass, it's really efficient. So that's why I practiced a lot with this white swim jig. And the water was a little bit dirty on that outside reed line, so the white was a real good color. So anyway, survived. Things always change every time I go to Okeechobee. So the biggest thing to me, when you go to Okeechobee, you have to keep an open mind. You have to stay really positive, because if you start to spin out because your fish aren't there, because the conditions always change early in the year, every time we go, you'll never figure out what to do during the tournament. So you got to keep a really positive attitude and stay focused, and that allowed me to make those last minute decisions and survive that tournament, because it was really hard and I was just happy I survived it. So we're over here at Lake Fork now, getting ready. I'm in Group B. I start my tournament tomorrow, and I'll probably be using a lot of these same lures and techniques over here because it's just that time of the year and the fish are spawning. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and feel free to ask me any questions.